Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Luciana Gama Muniz. I am project director at the Brazilian Center for International Relations, CEBRI. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Our debate today is sponsored by the Embassy of China in Brazil. And we will have a discussion about digital cities and new perspectives for cooperation between China and Brazil today. We were supposed to have a representative from the Chinese embassy, Mr. Gao Changlin. He is the science and technology advisor for the Embassy of China, but I think he's having some connection problems. So I'll just pass the floor to Miguel Pinto Guimarães, who is a very well-known architecture and urban planner in Brazil. Miguel will introduce us to the debate today and the panelists. Miguel, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Luciana. Welcome, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank CEBRI and the Chinese Embassy for this invitation, for being here among such admirable professionals and colleagues. Our generation imagined the future as we were used to watch during the 60s and 70s in the old cartoon of Hanna-Barbera, The Jetsons. It was full of robots, teletransportation, hamburger making machines. But for our children and grandchildren, we don't need to go this far in time. The future is just around the corner, at the other side of planet Earth, in China. The future has a completely different face. The future has the face of Pudong, for example. Other than we thought, we were this child. When we were this child, the future is not full of flying private cars. The future is not based on the flyability. The future of our cities looks much more like the walkability layer of Shanghai walkways that connect people to other people over the streets and surrounded by the parks of Shanghai. As for example, the Haidian Park in Beijing, that is able to track our training by simple face recognition while we jog surrounded by flowers and lakes. The future is green, as it used to be the past. But this future is most of all invisible. This digital revolution is based on data, technology, interconnected infrastructure, integrated sustainable ecosystems, auto-drive cars, high-speed trains, Internet of Things, monetary digitalization. And most important, it is made for all of its citizens. The future is being built by China over the last 2 decades, a fantastic growing speed that made possible by planning, education, and intelligence. During this period, almost 1 billion people were taken out of misery, urbanized, and integrated. Almost 15 years ago, we were named together by some American banker, together as well with some other nations, as the BRICS. And now China has surpassed Brazil by far. We stayed stuck in the past, and China has a lot to teach us about this path to the future. And this seminar seems to be a small spot in this journey. So let's get on the move. And now we'll present you our honorable guest, Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen is a senior engineering and director of Information Technology Department of Planning Institute of China Academy. Dr. Chen is also known as one of the most important names who participates in the national policy studies, formulation, and projects for Chinese major cities, the major principal cities he has worked on. So I pass the word to Dr. Chen.
Thank you.
So you can start your presentation.
OK. 然后 It's for my turn. Okay, I will share my screen and just like this. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. It's my honor to participate in this online seminar or the meeting. I hope to receive great suggestions and guidance from all the experts here. And my today's topic is about the development and prospect of smart city in China. Now, we can say China is experiencing a large scale and faster urbanization process. As we all know, the urbanization rate in China have arisen from the 17% in 1978 to about 16% in 2019. This is a successful, is a great and the urbanization. And China has a very large cities in China. There are about 193 cities to about 657 cities now. And there are more than 200 cities with over 1 million people living in the city, such in Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Wuhan, and so on. And there are about almost 25 cities in the world is the largest city. So we can see many big city problems occurred in the cities. So we have proposed a new mechanism and a new model of city development that called the smart city or the digital city. Until 2019, the number of the smart cities in China have reached about 305, covering the 100% of the provincial and the sub-provincial cities, and 71% of the prefecture level cities, and 24% of the country level cities. And then we can say in the recent years, China have taken many measures to promote the construction of smart city. First of all, we transfer the ministry's promotion from the individual promotion to the inter-ministry coordination promotion. In the past few years, ministry separately push forward, but nowadays China have already set up the inter-ministerial coordination working group, including 25 ministries working together to solve the conflicts between the different organizations and the different administration. At the local level, at the city level, some big data bureaus have been constructed and be mainly promoting the construction of smart city. Nowadays, we can see the smart cities architecture can be summarized in the model about 4-year layer model. In the bottom of the layer smart city, we can say there are integration of all kinds of different physical space and cyberspace through the sensors, through smart terminals, and so on. And the second layer, we call the network layer. And smart city can realize the information interconnection and sharing and the data sharing through the high-speed network, such as IoT, Internet of Things, or the 5G, or broadband. And the third layer is application support layer. In this layer, we can see there are some platforms such this platform can realize the accuracy and the humanization of management and service through the integration and the intercommunication of multiple systems, such as cloud computing platform, intelligent operation center, or we can say the smart city brain. Yeah, and the top layer is the application layer. Application layer, they is composed by some smart transportation, smart e-health, smart and medical treatment, and so on. In China, the smart city or the digital city have included many fields. In the summary, we can say there are 4 core fields about the urban management, public service, e-government service, and digital economy. Today, I will give you 3 examples focused on the first 3 areas. The first one, we can say is smart city brain, or in Brazil, we can say IOC, the intelligence of the operating center. The city brain is referred to a city intelligent central system. So we can say the city brain have realized many innovative applications, including about city events, perception, and intelligent processing, intelligent imaging recognition, insurance, the urban security, and so on. And also the city brain have achieved remarkable application results. For example, in Hangzhou, the Xiaoshan district, we can see the transportation time could be reduced by 15% or the 3 minutes by the supporting of our city brain. And another example of the city brain, we can see about the e-health in Hangzhou, and by the city brain have joined to connect 245 public hospitals with the city brain, and with the city brain we can do many innovative applications. The next one is about our today's topic, that is the communication big data travel history card, which occurs in this COVID-19 period. Our CAICT, we incorporate with 3 major operators in China, have launched the travel history card that leverages the telecommunication big data about to trace the history of different people. Here we can see the travel card have played a very important role in COVID-19 prevention and control. For example, if somebody arrived at a city, he needs to scan his QR code to show about the history where he traveled. And if he has not been to the severe epidemic areas, he will have the health code with green, and he can live liberally. If he came from some moderate or severe epidemic areas, and his QR code will be yellow or red, he has to take the coronavirus nuclear acid test, and maybe to some severe, she should take the quarantines. So by this big data travel history card, we can have the intelligent analysis and the automatic process with the data. And the last example is about the mobile government system. The mobile government system is referred to the collection of services as the strategy use of government services and application, which are only possible using the mobile telephones or by your laptop computers. Personal digital assistants and wireless intelligence infrastructure. Sometimes we can use our mobile phone to serve as many government services. For example, if someone have to apply for the service, he do not need to go to the government face-to-face, but he can put on her phone and use the app to apply every single services. So at last, we would be further promote our long-term cooperation in the field of digital cities or smart city between China and Brazil. And I have proposed some suggestions. First, we can hold some China and Brazil smart city best case sharing and seminars. And second, we can establish a regular exchange mechanism between China and Brazil. And next, if we can go deepen our cooperation, we can carry out some pilot cooperation between China and Brazil in smart city. And we can establish a China-Brazil expert group on the smart city. So that's my presentation today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Now we can pass to Marcelo Motta. He is Director of Solutions and Cybersecurity at Huawei and is one of the greatest leaders on cybersecurity management and security. Please, Marcelo, go on.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Thank you, CEBRI, for the invitation. So I bring here some contribution for this discussion and talk about the connectivity and the digital cities. Okay, so I just want to clarify that Huawei is a Chinese company, but we operate in over 170 countries, and we are here in Brazil already in the past 22 years. So we are working together with Brazil for a long time, right? So the key drivers for this connected society, in fact, the foundation for that is the connectivity. But the connectivity serves for a purpose, right? Actually, a lot of its sensors and the IoTs, they will be connected, okay? And for the construction or for the collection of data and construction of smart applications. And these smart applications, in fact, is going to improve the efficiency of the overall society, of the industries, and so on, okay? So connectivity is a foundation, and one side you have sensors, the other side you have data and smart applications constructed, built on the top of this data, right? And once the connectivity shifted to super connectivity, because in fact you have more speed available, lower latency, and more things connected. So this is in fact the key trigger for the construction of more and more applications. If you consider the high-speed component or the high-speed feature of the super connectivity, we can have a lot of traffic generated by video, right? And then we are able to collect these and to make use of video analytics to build up applications such as this one I am pointing out here, right? Like sewage discharge, intrusion detection, fire and smoke detection, okay? Over emissions detections from vehicles in the city. So all of these, it's possible because in fact from one side we can call, we have the high-speed internet, the data is collected and you have analytics and the AI help us to build up this kind of applications, right? And this can be all supported by geographic information systems. And we can have a clear view where this intrusion or sewage discharge, where these events they occur, right? So we can make the cities cleaner and more intelligent, okay? And using Huawei experiences in all these countries, we are also bringing these applications here in Brazil. So for example, there are some applications for public safety that we test here together with our partners, some operators and customers here in Brazil, right? So here is one example. In fact, we could detect criminals, identify criminals during Carnival, for example. Here is a case in Bahia, and then you have a case in Rio, right? So actually, the government, they have a database, and then the cameras can compare the images that we capture during Carnival with this database that belongs to government. And then we can identify some criminal faces and we can detect some events to support in public safety. So here is the experience we bring from China, right? Thousands of inquiries for you to arrest someone without this kind of solution. But then, because of this comparison and the intelligence, actually the efficiency is improved a lot. So for every 3 police inquiry, we are 1 arrest is done. Okay, so this is just to prove the result and how this can help the government in terms of public security, right? So here is another example that we bring it to Brazil during pandemic. So actually there is this computed tomography, and actually patients, they go, images are generated in the tomography, but the traditional process, you need a doctor to evaluate this image and then to diagnose, to make the diagnostic, okay, based on that. So the process here, it takes a long time, but AI, once you collect this image, AI can help the doctor, can assist the doctors to quickly identify the disease, okay? So actually, instead of 12 minutes for a conclusion, this can be done in just 2 minutes. So Huawei, we were able to bring these applications to the Hospital das Clínicas in São Paulo, and also Hospital Regional da Asa Norte in Brasilia, okay? And actually, this improved a lot the overall efficiency, especially during these pandemic times. So this is another example about connectivity, sensors, and the cloud to analyze this data and to have AI in the top for the construction of these applications, right? So here is the key value, right? Connectivity, and then you have cloud, the 4 layers that I saw in the presentation of Dr. Chen. So Huawei, we beyond connectivity, we also have our public cloud. It's located in Brazil, can provide a lot of AI services. In fact, Huawei itself, we provide infrastructure. So the construction, the applications, they are built up in the top by local ecosystem players. So actually, we just provide infrastructure. The data comes, the data is stored, the data belongs to government there, right? And the others, local companies, with expertise in these different domains, they are able to use this data to build up AI, okay, and to build up this kind of applications. There is no doubt it's necessary to have a big concern with security here, right? With privacy and security. At the same time, as I mentioned before, we needed to work together to develop local ecosystem players in order to build up all these several applications for the cities and for the industries. So Huawei, we have a Huawei Brazil Open Lab for this purpose, okay? About security, ourselves, we need to protect the data that is stored here, right? So actually, this data use survey for the application developers. So we need to manage the access of these developers to this data. We need to care about this data, anonymize this data, protect this data. Not only for the developers, but also for the operation and maintenance teams and the users that are going to access these kind of platforms. So this is the complete overview, right, about the ecosystem, about security, cloud, and connectivity. So I think there is a lot of space for us to cooperate in this domain, and we are already doing this in Brazil, as I shared before. So thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you. Let's now speak with Washington Fajardo. Washington is a good friend, and he is an architect and urbanist devoted to recycling the Brazilian cities. He was one of the key thinkers of Rio's municipality between 2009 and 2016. That was our golden years. The Lowe Fellowship recently selected him for a program at Harvard University, from where he just arrived to talk to us and make this presentation. Go on, Fajardo.
Thank you very much, Miguel. It's really good to see you. Thank you, CEBRI and China's embassy for this invitation. Let me share my screen and jump to my presentation. And I'm really honored to be here and very excited to have a really good conversation about the digital city. I just would like to bring a new perspective, or at least a broad perspective of the issue of the digital realm relate with urban realm, and especially how the digital experience could improve our civic experience. As you might know, and it's pretty well known, that Rio, during the Olympics preparation, the City Hall of Rio had created this operation center, and this operation center was really strategic to deal with this the massive transformation in the city during that time. The operation center was critical to improve traffic conditions and also to predict some problems regarding the construction of new infrastructure, and also to allowing citizens to have a better information. But the thing that I would like to discuss here, it's a different thing. I would like to bring the urban perspective on the digital. And like Jane Jacob said before, the experience in the cities are based on the idea of the public good. That's why we believe in cities. That's why we love the cities, because cities have providing things for us to improve our individual lives, our family lives. And essentially because cities have the capability of providing something for everybody, only because and only when they are also created by everybody. And I think this is a really important thing, because and also as Christopher Alexander said in The City is Not a Tree paper from 1965, it's really also important to understand the human condition into cities as a complexity experience. We are not talking about cities like Brasilia, but we are essentially talking about cities that was developed over time and created by history. So that means that our human relations and also the physical relations in cities are very complex system. And maybe that's why the digital perspective and even the machine learning and deep learning technologies could help us to improve our citizens' experience into cities. And then I would like to bring some practical things that or practical knowledge from my experience in the City Hall when I was in charge of the public service for the downtown area of Rio. And it was a program called Downtown for All. And in this program, I was in charge of improving the public service for the public space in the city of Rio. And during that time, I had the necessity to help my colleagues in the city hall to learn to read the city. And at the same time, during one public hearing with citizens, with dwellers from the historic downtown Rio, I had this idea about, okay, let's start to create WhatsApp groups to improve our conversation. And that was a terrific experience, essentially because we were able to create a very fast communication space, allowing local dwellers as local owners of business to have a really strong and trustful connection with city agencies. And that was a really simple idea. So basically, I started to create WhatsApp groups with local communities, also with some city officials. And then I started to create also different groups with coordinators of sectors from the city hall, and at the same time, the head of agencies of city service, like cleaning, cutting trees, public lighting, and also create groups with the mayor. And that was a really efficient way of to create a bottom-up communication, and at the same time, a top-down communication. When people's complaints about the quality of the public service was very, into a very fast way, answered by the city hall. And it was some kind of digital public space where people could trust and share the problem of the streets, and at the same time, the city hall could give them answers. And at the same time, during these walks into the historic downtown of Rio, I started also to broadcasting these walks. And once again, it was a really fascinating experience. And essentially using, as I said before, I was using WhatsApp, and then I was using Facebook broadcasting. And by doing this broadcasting, that's the main thing. By using the digital conversations, we could also improve the physical conversations, because when we get together, we already know each other, we already had shared our visions about the cities, and then we were able to create a much trustful and much better quality of public conversation. And I think that's the main, that's the soul of cities. It's the digital realm. It's another layer into the urban infrastructure. Not only a main end itself, but a medium to improve the quality of life. But on the other hand, as you might know, we have also very social critical areas in the city of Rio. And as you can see, this Google Street View map, as you can see, we are talking about areas of scarcity, and also areas of digital invisibility. And looking for that, and now jumping again to a thing that I'm just working on, and I'm right now starting up solutions to bring more technological approach to favelas and slums in Rio, to our Chinese friends. And I truly believe that by using these technologies in a very short period of time, we will be able to developing also better solutions to basically leapfrog from our lack of infrastructure to a better comprehension of informal areas. As a conclusion, I'm right now working on developing this kind of favela big data, and I'm very optimistic about it. And I truly believe that by using these digital tools, we could also improve the quality of life in cities like Rio. Thank you very much. Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you, Fajardo. Nice presentation. Let's now talk with Philip Yan. He's a senior fellow at CEBRI and is the founder of URBEM, an institution dedicated to structuring urban projects. His master in public administration from Harvard Kennedy School, and he has also a previous career as diplomat in the Brazilian Foreign Service. That is a very important skill for an architect. So, Philip.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Also, on behalf of CEBRI, let me thank you, Dr. Chen, Marcelo, Motta, and Washington Fajardo for your presentations. We at CEBRI, we have recently started to undertake efforts to absorb and promote urban development affairs as a topic of the international relations debate. We have seen how much of the geopolitical and geoeconomic change have been determined by events at the subnational, at the urban level. So your views and reflections on the digital city and on technologies and tools that underpin the development of cities are invaluable to us in this moment that we are experiencing, going through in CEBRI. Let me take this opportunity to highlight a few thoughts. I would have 3 comments on the topic of the seminar in light of the broader context of our China-Brazil bilateral relations, also in light of the ongoing US-China economic and political rivalry. My first comment has to do with this general overview that we just heard from Dr. Chen and Marcelo Motta on the status of China's extraordinary path toward modernization of the Chinese cities. One first and obvious lesson that we draw here is that China is at the forefront of the development of smart city technologies. China became a leader in the production and use of sensing and networking devices. All the gadgets that turn inanimate and inert objects into sensing and reacting objects, which combined with artificial intelligence constitute the backbone, the most advanced methods for managing cities and public space. So if you happen to read the latest US Congress report on China's smart city development that was recently released by the US China Economic and Security Congressional Review Commission, you would reach a similar conclusion. Not only Chinese digital city technologies are now leading the development trend, but also these technologies saw a rapid implementation domestically in China, internationally, making China a leader in hardware exports. And also from the report, you will get a sense of how worried the United States is about this development in the realm of urban development. Well, a second observation that we take out from the discussions here is a sad conclusion, but a very necessary one. From what we hear today, we need to acknowledge that vis-a-vis China, Brazil is very, very far from having a policy vision, at least a federal policy vision towards what is going to be a digital, smart urban environment, and very far. And this has to do with, top-down federal policy. It does not. My comment does not include this very interesting comments that Fajardo made about, very many bottom-up initiatives that are flourishing here and there. But from the top-down perspective, Brazil is far, far away from having this vision. And my reference point for this remark is the Brazilian Charter for Smart Cities that was recently published by the federal government. It is, for those who have read it, it's a well-written and well-intentioned document. It's a sort of a very nice letter of principles with sound objectives, but without a clear indication of ways and means to achieve those objectives, and without the sense of urgency that is required to coalesce a new policy. This is a sad note, but a necessary reminder that we need to move faster in a domain that is the central driver of economic and social development. And the absence of a big leapfrog, as Washington mentioned, we in Brazil will certainly thwart or delay our development path. So my third and final comment is not exactly a comment per se, is much more an expression and a statement of a wish for a new Brazilian foreign policy to China, for a new China-Brazil strategic agenda. From the late 1970s onwards, in the context of the third industrial revolution, China emerges an economic power thanks to its capacity to attract and absorb massive investment and technology from the United States and the West in general, in the wake of the open door policy of 1978. Now, in the context of the fourth industrial revolution, my wish is that similarly, Brazil finds its way to attract Chinese investment and technologies for urban infrastructure in the same way and in the same scale that China was skillfully able to attract in its relations with the US and the West in the past recent decades. In very practical terms, this would mean that this strategic partnership with China would lead to massive Chinese investment in cities, infrastructure, and urban technologies. Of course, such a partnership would be based on mutual interest. From the Chinese perspective, Brazil would offer food and energy security and a sizable market for the export of digital products and services. From the Brazilian point of view, Chinese investment and technologies for the digital city and infrastructure would put us on the path of Industry 4.0 and a new reality of economic efficiency and social inclusion. Well, this may sound as a wishful thinking in light of the current anti-China sentiment that prevails in our current administration, but I hope and I am sure that in the long run or even in the middle run, better days will come, even for the competitive implementation of the 5G network, which is the hot topic of the absence of policy in Brazil nowadays. Of course, Dr. Chen's suggestion of different working groups, best cases exchanges and expert groups are a very necessary, very important path. But I really hope that we can find grounds for a sort of a grand strategy for our bilateral relationship involving urban infrastructure and a better terms of exchange, trade exchange between our two countries. Let me stop here to allow time for discussions. I wish to perhaps acknowledge the presence of Mr. Gao Changlin. He was absent in the beginning of the presentation for connection purposes, but I would like also to thank the sponsorship of the Chinese embassy for these discussions. Thank you so much. And Miguel, back to you. The floor is yours.
Sorry, I was with the mic off. Thank you, Philip. I would like now to ask one question for one of each of you, and then open to Q&A. Dr. Chen, first, I'll come to you. How this COVID-19 crisis will impact the plans of full implementation of the Smart Cities program throughout China? Do you think you will face any kind of delay, or will you be able to catch up with the projects?
Okay, thanks, Miguel. And on the one hand, the COVID-19 crisis have already impacted on some parts of the smart city progress. For example, due to the lack of the large-scale data to support support people during the Chinese New Year's migration, and some places or some cities have stayed in a situation with chaos. But on the other side, during the COVID-19 outbreak, smart city also played a very important role such during the outbreak of each community to strengthen the management of people in and out, and the use of face recognition, infrared temperature measurement, health code data, and so on. So I think currently more and more cities will realize the importance of using or utilize the digital technology or ICT to improve the urban governance. So I think the progress of smart city will be quickened rather than slower. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Guys, do you have any questions for one another? What do you think? I have some other questions, but if you want to ask our colleagues, Philip, do you want to?
Yes, I have several questions. One of my questions about, I have recently read, Dr. Chen, that the urbanization plans in China played a very significant role in the overall development of China. One thing that we would like to learn from China, that's perhaps a little bit out of your expertise, but I wanted to ask you anyway. I recently read that China was able to raise private funds in the amount of 33 trillion RMB in 20 years. That's a huge amount of funding from the private sector to government to fund the infrastructure, urban infrastructure. And that was made basically from the concession of land, of urban land, from government to the private sector for real estate development. How was this? How did that happen? Would you have a few words on that, and how that interrelated with the smart cities digital technology in the recent past?
Okay, thank you, Professor Yang. And I think, firstly, the smart city construction should be sustainable and sometimes profitable to all kinds of the involvement. Not only the government investment, but also we need the fundings and we need the investment from the enterprises, from the social, and we think we should, through our government guidance, we can encourage the cooperation between government and the enterprises and the social participants in many fields and in many innovative fields, and we can see some innovative application that could be profitable, such as the smart light. The smart light, we can use the smart light as a 5G receiver. We can use the smart light as a light saver, and we can also put some advertisement on the smart light. This could be a will be a sustainable and a profitable model for kinds of the smart projects. So we say in the smart city, not all the projects should be paying or should be invested by the government, but also they need more social investment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fajardo, I have one question for you. Since the beginning, the Chinese smart cities infrastructure is built for all of its citizens, not just the online structure, but also the offline, like the buildings, parks, train stations, high-speed railway, and everything. Especially in Brazil, the implementation of some aspects of the smart cities technology requires a previous preparation, because it can result in what I can say, an unwanted enhance of our inequalities. Since not everyone, as you said already, since not everyone has the same access to the digital world. It looks that first of all, we strongly need a digital inclusion program to prepare the base of our social pyramid for these future benefits of the full program. What do you think can China help us to, how can China help us to get this experience and to sort this program, sort it out?
Thank you, Miguel. That's a really good question. As everyone might know, Brazil is still dealing with the lack of 19th century infrastructure. We recently approved a new law for improve the water and sanitation in the country, allowing the private sector to have a role on providing infrastructure to cities. My main concern is that this, even these critical infrastructure issues, because they are so problematic, they are also a really good opportunity to, as I said before, to create a leapfrog effect by especially adding and bringing more technological and digital and even smart infrastructure to even sanitation could have a special, a totally different development by using machine learning technologies, for example, to design smart grids for cities. The point that is urban issues in the broad sense, it's as Philip said, it's not yet well planned by the federal government in Brazil. But although this is problematic, but I think we should talk about diplomacy between cities, among cities. I think this urban diplomacy, and especially create a network, as Professor Chen said, create a network of individuals, but also a network of cities collaborating among themselves. I think this is would really bring a cross-pollination for both sides. Because we also had our unique perspective on the infrastructure and urban issues and I truly believe that the Brazilian way of using cities and the Brazilian really intense urban culture, Brazil it got the highest level of urbanization in the planet, and I think this very intense truly believe on cities and the quality of experience had also a positive impact on developing new technologies. And I think that China could also have a really good experience by understand that. And for sure, and for us, for Brazilian cities, we could also have better technologies. I don't believe, as I said, that the federal government will have a main role on this right now, but I think mayors and even governors should be pushed to really strengthen our collaboration with the Chinese friends. I think this we also should look to our history, our diplomatic history in Brazil, and the idea of Brazil, of a country and a nation of a really intense solidarity. And these are really important values for Brazilian society. I think it are also really good values for Chinese society. We are talking about the same ideas of harmony, of common development, of solidarity, and we are talking at the end of really intense human rights principle. And this human rights principle that we share as nations could also, it's a really good table to discuss technological infrastructure investments and improvements.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you. Marcelo, I have a question for you now. Something that we're used to hear since the beginning of the century is that data is the new oil. Which I also always considered a very interesting metaphor because data also leaks. Which brings us to one of the key questions of this century. After the COVID-19 crisis, I think that the world tends to face a kind of deglobalization, especially with the rise of extreme right-wing players that we can see everywhere. So how can the tech industries help to change this picture? You spoke about cybersecurity, and how can you guarantee the commitment and with the confidentiality and privacy? And more than that, how can you better communicate that? Because I'm a believer. I believe in everything. I believe in governments, in companies, and everything. But nowadays, people we face a kind of lack of confidence, and confidence is something very important to the full implementation of the smart city programs everywhere. So, what can you say about this?
Thanks, Miguel. Very good question. Actually, for all this digital society, cybersecurity and privacy protection, this is a basic foundation. Without this, nobody will trust on these systems, and this will not work, right? So this is a very big concern of all our customers and to ourselves. So this is not only a company, but it's in fact several countries worldwide with this similar concern. And there are several techniques that can be used for you to guarantee confidentiality and integrity. Okay, so actually, as I shared, there are plenty of sensors collecting data. These data usually go to the clouds. So this data, in fact, is key for this data to be encrypted, okay, to be stored in protected databases. The data can even be scrambled, anonymized to protect the privacy, right? So actually, plenty of technical ways for you to protect the data. But this data, in fact, is going to be used for applications. So who is going to have access to this data? So which channels, in which way application developers, OEM teams, or users are going to access this data? So these channels, they need to be protected, okay? And the users, they need to be authenticated. Usually, there is the usage of multi-factors authentication for you to really detect who is going to have access to this to data. So there are plenty of techniques, but once we have all the world and all these platforms, all digital, for sure, the number of attacks is going to grow up. So this is a kind of a challenge that the digital world is experiencing. So more and more, the international community, we are able to share information quicker for these systems to detect the threats and to protect and prevent from these threats. So collaboration, in fact, is very important because, okay, we have these techniques, but from the other side, as everything is digital, the threats, they are growing up. So cooperation, collaboration, it's a very important point for us to further protect these systems, which is in fact, and from these threats, which is in fact a common challenge for all these digital worlds.
Thank you, Marcelo. Dr. Chen, I will make you a last question, and then we open to Q&A. We can identify, as you spoke, some steps of the smart cities technology over the last few years. First, you have the cameras, then face recognition, then data analysis, development of devices like QR codes, apps, and everything. And how and when can we expect the next step? Like the full link between people and the city, the full connection between online structures and offline infrastructure, and the connections between hardware, devices, building, and users, and maybe the interaction between AI and the human brain. So I'm pushing you forward, but how and when can we expect that this will happen?
Thank you. It's a very good question. And firstly, I should mention that smart city is not only the accumulation of all the combination of these technologies, but the technology ICT is the empowerment driven force and is the foundation of the smart city. And the smart city needs some technology just like the IoT to perceive the city's operations data, traffic flow, and some events. And they also need the big data, need the cloud computing and other ICT technology to integrate the data of various departments, external companies, and so as to realize the data fusion and the data intelligent analysis. And furthermore, we can say some AI, artificial intelligence, or the mobile internet of other technologies can combine together to, and we can say the AI can realize the humanized or the personalized service interaction with the wisdom of the people. For example, actively and effectively push service information to the public. This is just one example. And the public with, and another example is some people with the high credibility can enjoy more services and application before the payment. That also will be in the future is another scenario. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Now we are open to the Q&A questions. I have received some questions here that I will read for you. The first one to Professor Fajardo. Rio de Janeiro Operations Center work as the city's brain in the sense Professor Chen just referred to his concept. Is the same city brain, the COR in Rio?
Yes, totally. The operations center in the city of Rio, it's yes, it's the brain of the city, and as I said, it's especially during the preparation for the Olympics was a critical tool to also not only to showing and problems in the daily basis from the city, but also predict problems. Essentially, priority for mobility, but also when the city, as our Chinese friends might know, the seasons of rains, especially in Rio, the tropical rains are really problematic for the city. And yes, the operations center had a really important role on helping the city to manage these environmental stresses.
Okay. Philip, there's one question that just arrived. I will make it to you. And it refers to Huxley, Orwell, and Clarke, and others writers that imagine societies with strong control by small, with a strong control by small elites. In the world today, people vote. In the world today, people vote, but real control is in the power of a small group of people. Modern technology reinforces that, or will we have any exit and we can live in a better society? Do you think this will take us to a worse world or to a better world?
That's a fantastic question.
That's not my question, someone's question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think I spent most of my day thinking of that. And I think, from what we see today, the polarization is just an expression of how technologies have been directed towards a dystopian future. And that's the train. I would say that's the mainstream of today's technology trends, is to use them as for dystopic means, to divide people. Actually, you leave a world, a bipolar world in which nations were divided, to an environment in which digital technologies are dividing the table of your dining room between. This is a division that is reaching families and communities and neighborhoods. It is a terrible thing. It takes a lot of reason, a lot of thinking and will to change the course of these events. Basically, it's related to, I guess everyone in the table have watched already The Social Dilemma. I think it changes the conscience over the monetization methods that it prevails over the use of the internet. The data collection, as you mentioned, Miguel, is the source of making money, but it's thwarting our capacity to discern about what is reasonable and what is not, and it's dividing further and further. I think we are in a cognitive trap, I call it. It's a cognitive trap in which half of the population thinks that the other half is absolutely insane. And to get out from this cognitive trap, which begins far back, 2 to 3 centuries ago, even down backwards but I think the ideologies that command the political economy of our societies today are already divided by this emotional gap, this emotional cognitive bias that we have ingrained in our cognitive apparatus. So it takes a lot of discussions. It takes a lot of reasoning about how to overcome, because it's not possible to think that the other half of the population is stupid. It is just that everyone's cognitive apparatus is biased. We have to acknowledge that as a point of departure to overcome this dystopia that we are facing today.
This is what I just spoke about, the lack of confidence. We need I don't know the word, but we need to trust the fellows, the countries. We were in a very a small period of I think world peace between maybe before the 9/11, and then everything turned upside down. So we strongly need this shock of confidence to get to the next step in a better world. So to Dr. Chen, I'd like to make one question. Did China's cities face substandard housing conditions, such as the favelas and peripheric housing that we have in Brazilian neighbors, in Brazilian metropolitan areas? And how can smart city technology be used in such areas? I think you are without the mic.
Sorry. Just turn on the microphone. I think the smart city, the target of smart city and the objective is to have equality service for everybody living in this city, not just for some people, and other people cannot obtain the proper service. So I think in this situation, we need to use our digital technology to provide the equal services to everyone. So just like to push the information service to everybody with the smartphone, with the smart device, and we can also have some instructions, have some smart instructions to everyone living in the substandard places. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. I'd like to make you another question. China quickly developed from an agricultural society to an industrialized society nation, and then to the world leader in technology. This happened in less than 50 years at a high environmental cost. China is also quickly moving towards a green-based economy with great commitment. And how is it being done? Which are the targets?
China have the green economic target and objective. In 2018, China's carbon dioxide emission per GDP have dropped by 4%. As in addition, now the smart green city itself has become an innovative and new model of the urbanization or the city of the model, which could reduce a lot of carbon emissions. So we can put forward the green smart city more quickly. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Chen, thank you. So any one of you speakers want to make another question to the other?
I want to make a comment, Miguel.
Okay.
Related to the topics you touch about digital inclusion, right? So actually, as Dr. Chen shared, right? So connectivity can bring digital inclusion, and this is very important in this new digital economy and digital world that we are building up. What I see pretty much along the years is that China is heavily investing. Several companies in China, including Huawei, we are heavily investing in innovation. And once we have the basis in that market, but also we cover several countries, we are able to build up scale. And this scale contribute for the reduction of costs and promote the digital inclusion, okay? So I have the opportunity to compare, for example, the 4G broadband prices for the prepaid mobile users in Brazil and China last year. And these prices, they were like in the same, in a similar level, okay? So this is actually quite good. But also for Brazil, once we compare the infrastructure, if you compare the number of base stations to have 4G or 3G, 4.5G coverage, China, they have 5 times more infrastructure. So these for sure impact in the digital inclusion in China, right? And this inclusion and this access to these applications, in fact, shifted their society quicker towards a more efficient economy, okay? I will give you one example. I talked to a Brazilian company that manage ports here, and they visit China to have some comparison with the ports there, and that they shared with me that the ports in China, they process 3 times more cargo with 1/3 of the people. So this for sure, it's like it's 90 times more efficient, right? And powered by technology. So imagine that we are lacking of ports. We need to expand this. But imagine if you could make a better usage of the currently available ports, processing more, right? So this would help us to develop quicker. And so this is what I want to comment is that this integration with this big scale from China will help these innovations and scale to arrive here in Brazil to help us to develop the Brazilian society faster, right? So this is the comment I want to share.
Thank you, Marcelo. I think Philip has one question.
Yes, let me make a question. I'm very intrigued by many interesting questions from the audience, but I think if we were to answer all of them, it would take another seminar. So let me make a very short, objective question to our Chinese fellows in the panel, Dr. Chen and Marcelo Motta. I consider Marcelo Motta as a Chinese, right, working for Huawei. So, but I'm very curious to know what is the reality now in Chinese cities regarding the demand over office space. You see, we hear that there's a huge trend in São Paulo. There's a huge trend towards home office, and many corporate offices are downsizing, leaving their headquarters for home office and having less employees at their base. I wonder, this is something that is also happening in China. How do you see this trend happening in China? Do you think that is going to also follow the same trend as in Western countries, or because of the specificity of Chinese culture, this would have another behavior from Chinese companies and governments?
So maybe Dr. Chen could comment. I am out of China since of beginning of this year, so I didn't experience this pandemic there. So maybe Dr. Chen has more information.
Okay, so just Professor Yang has mentioned a phenomenon. I just want to hear it again, just catch the point. Okay. Can you explain it more?
Yes,
Can you repeat, Philip?
Yeah, sure. Dr. Chen, you see in cities like São Paulo here, in Rio, and even New York, London, many people are not working in their headquarters anymore. They are allowed to work in their homes. So the trend in the real estate market is that the corporate office will leave their spaces. There is a reduction in the demand of corporate spaces. I wonder whether this is happening also in China. How is this trend taking place? It seems to us that in the Western countries, this is a very permanent trend. People will stay much more time in their homes, working from their homes. Do you think that this is going to happen also in China?
Okay. Thank you, Professor Yang. And I think this is a trend in China now, and especially during the COVID-19 outbreak. Many people have worked in their home or in separate places through the internet, through the ICT infrastructure, not only to have to work face to face. I think just like we work, and other companies will provide more opportunity, and the online work trend will last for a long time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Thank you, Philip. I think we ran out of time. I will invite Luciana and Dr. Gao now to the closing. And I hope, I thank you all. And I hope this cooperation between Brazil and China can improve both our cities and our societies. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. On behalf of CEBRI, I would like to thank our panelists today. Thanks for all of you to joining us. And I also would like to thank the Embassy of China in Brazil for sponsoring this event. I would now pass to Mr. Gao from Chinese Embassy for his closing remarks. Mr. Gao, please.
Dear distinguished participants, good morning and good evening. I'm sorry that I have not been connected at the beginning of the meeting due to the technological reasons. Sorry again. It's a great pleasure for me to participate this seminar. And first of all, I would like to congratulate the convening of this meeting on behalf of the embassy. And I would like to also to extend my gratitude to all the speakers and moderators for the from China and from Brazil. And since the outbreak of the pandemic COVID-19, China and Brazil have been strengthening bilateral cooperation on jointly confront the pandemic. The two countries have further depend cooperation in the field of sciences and to respond to the pandemic. Today's meeting is another example of the two sides to address challenges of COVID-19 based on science technology cooperation. Today, the speakers have had very excellent presentations and shared their experiences on how to improve city management and governmental services by using ICT, smart technology, digital technology, and so on. And science and technology cooperation is a key part of China-Brazil cooperation and the main pillar for China-Brazil comprehensive strategic partnership. Since the two countries signed the governmental agreement on science technology cooperation in 1982, the areas of cooperation have continued to expand, covering the wide range of fields such as space technology, ICT, biotechnology, new energy, new materials, and also the cultural technologies. And the two governments have established a regular mechanism for guiding bilateral cooperation in science, technology, and innovation. So the digital technology, ICT, has always been one of our priority areas. Currently, China has mainly contained the pandemic of COVID-19, and China is implementing the national strategy of innovation-driven development. So China-Brazil science technology cooperation has many complementary advantages and huge potential, I think. Therefore, strengthening the cooperation between China and Brazil in the field of digital economy is a great of significance to economic recovery and the development of the pandemic. So I believe today's seminar will further deepen the bilateral cooperation, not only in the digital cities after COVID-19, but also in the broad areas to benefit the people of our two countries. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.